So picture this. You gather the absolute brightest minds you can find.
Right.
You engineer a literal functioning fusion reactor down in your locked basement.
As one does, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You plug it in, the thing glows, and you just sort of sit back and expect the entire world to beat a path to your door.
Because we deeply crave that really clean narratives.
Yeah, exactly.
It's psychologically comforting for creators to think that way. We want to believe the universe is just this pure meritocracy of engineering, you know?
Where the math just works out.
Right. The assumption is that raw quality and technical perfection just possess their own gravitational pull.
But then you step out of that basement, reactor in hand, ready for your Nobel Prize, and you look at the actual landscape of innovation and consumer adoption.
And it's a mess.
It is a total mess. Suddenly, the laws of physics are broken. You're staring at a marketplace that is completely fundamentally indifferent to your basement.
They don't care at all.
I mean, you have the power to light a city, and the city doesn't even know your address.
Which is, well, it's the absolute definition of a creator's blind spot.
Yes.
And it's actually the exact anchor point for our analysis today.
Yeah.
Because we are looking at this hyper-specific snapshot of the world Saturday, May 2nd, 2026.
Today.
Right, today, where the brightest engineers on Earth are making this exact mistake at an unprecedented scale.
So for you listening, today we are mapping out the architecture of what is being called an impending age of abundance.
It's a huge concept.
It really is.
Yeah.
And to do that, we are cross-referencing 3 distinct layers of source material. First, we have this really provocative manifesto titled Respect Marketing by visionary author Paramendra Kumar Bhagat.
Mm-hmm.
Second, we've got an extensive bibliography of his books, and it's like this mind-bending catalog covering AI, biotechnology, spiritual economics, geopolitics.
It covers everything, honestly.
Yeah. And then finally, just to ground all this theory, we are pulling actual internet headlines from this exact day in May 2026.
So if you visualize the digital backdrop of today's deep dive, picture a massive interconnected constellation of data points.
Yeah.
Because we are looking at a world in violent transition. We're trying to reconcile the philosophy of how the future is built with, well, the messy reality of the day it actually arrives.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to start with the core philosophy of that Respect Marketing text. It diagnoses that basement fusion reactor problem perfectly.
It really does. The author calls it the blind spot of excellent founders.
Right. These are brilliant people doing objectively excellent work.
Yeah.
But they harbor this fatal assumption. They genuinely believe excellent work sells itself.
And the author uses a philosophical classic to just completely dismantle that assumption.
Oh, the tree quote.
Yeah, to quote the text directly, the tree fell in the forest. Nobody heard it. Did the tree fall? No, it did not.
It's brutal. I
Wow.
mean, it's just so final.
It is.
If nobody knows your fusion reactor is there, it literally does not matter that the atoms are splitting. The physical reality of your product is secondary to its perception in the market.
It's a zero. Without perception, it's just a zero. And the reason this happens is deeply tied to the ego of creation. Because when you build something, you naturally assume the product is the center of the universe.
Sure, you've spent years on it.
Exactly. But the manifesto completely strips away that hubris with one really profound sentence. Quote, "The market is the goddess. You are a mere entrepreneur."
Wow. That phrasing flips the entire power dynamic. You aren't dictating terms to reality anymore.
No, you are serving a highly complex collective entity.
Right. And the text goes even deeper into, like, the grammar of business. It states, your product is a noun, but the market is a verb. The noun is nothing without the verb.
I love that framework. Think about the mechanics of those two words. A product, the noun, is static.
Right. It's done.
It's a finished piece of code or a physical device sitting on a shelf. But a market, a verb, is in perpetual motion.
It's acting.
Yes, it's millions of people changing their minds or experiencing specific daily frictions. They're losing their jobs, falling in love, reacting to inflation. That's a verb.
Which means marketing cannot just be, the billboard you buy after the noun is totally finished.
Precisely. The text redefines the entire concept, stating quite simply, marketing is listening.
Listening?
Yeah. It is the act of engaging with the verb of the market so deeply that human behavior actually dictates what noun you build in the first place.
But wait, let me push back here.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs famously said that people don't know what they want until you show it to them.
He did say that, yeah.
And he notoriously hated focus groups.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that actively contradict the idea that the market is a goddess you have to listen to? I mean, he definitely wasn't taking dictation from the masses.
Well, if we define listening as sending out surveys and asking consumers to literally design circuit boards, then yeah, you'd be right. But listening to the market as a verb means observing friction, not asking them for solutions.
Okay, walk me through that.
Yeah.
How do you listen to friction to build something that, doesn't even exist yet?
So look at the environment Jobs was observing right before the iPhone. People were carrying an iPod for music, a really clunky Nokia cell phone for calls, and a terrible BlackBerry or PDA for emails.
Oh man, I remember those days. Your pockets were just full of devices.
Exactly. They were physically weighed down by fragmented technology. The market wasn't yelling, hey, give me a multi-touch capacitive glass screen.
Huh, right. They didn't have the vocabulary for that.
No, they didn't. The market was yelling its frustration with the friction. Jobs listened to the depth of the problem, not a proposed solution.
Oh, I see.
Meanwhile, look at Microsoft. They completely dominated the PC wars, right? But they tried to push their existing noun, a desktop operating system, onto a mobile market that was verging in a completely different direction.
They weren't participating in the listening game.
Not at all. And they suffered a blowout because of it.
So they weren't listening to the verb, and their noun became irrelevant. Now, if you want to break out of that irrelevance, the author argues you need tremendous propulsion. The text states that any tech startup with product market fit, some money and revenue, can achieve unicorn status if they respect marketing. Because, quote, marketing is propulsion. It will give you escape velocity.
That specific phrase, escape velocity, is so telling. It implies that getting stuck is actually the default state of a business.
Gravity wants to pull you back down to mediocrity.
Right. It takes an immense sustained force to break out of that gravity well.
And what's wild is how the text recalibrates the destination of that escape velocity. The author writes, Columbus was 500 years ago. Today we go to the moon.
The ambition scale is just completely shifting.
Yeah. In business terms, we have spent the last decade basically worshiping the unicorn, the billion-dollar startup. But the manifesto says that benchmark is dead. The new target is the Solara.
$1 trillion.
$1 trillion sun. Just mathematically, the difference between a million, a billion, and a trillion is almost impossible for the human brain to really visualize.
We just don't have the hardware for it.
We don't. Like, think about it in seconds. A million seconds is about 12 days. A billion seconds is 31 years.
Wow.
But a trillion seconds, that is 31,000 years.
That really puts it in perspective.
Right. That is the massive leap in ambition the author is demanding here.
What's fascinating here is how that scale of ambition dictates your entire architecture from day one. If you want to build a rocket to the moon, you don't start by building a really fast bicycle and hoping to just iterate your way into orbit.
You'd never get there.
You have to engineer for space from the very beginning. As the author notes, vision is marketing. The grand Solara vision can be your starting point.
And the text argues this 10x ambition is possible specifically in this era, right now, because there are, quote, at least 10 internet-sized technologies exploding simultaneously.
We really need to define internet size for a second.
They do.
Because the advent of the internet didn't just give us faster mail. It fundamentally rewired human commerce, global psychology, information distribution, everything.
It changed the verb.
Exactly. So the author posits we are standing in the blast radius of 10 distinct technologies of that exact same magnitude, and they are all detonating concurrently.
Which creates endless, chaotic permutations. And the author gives a fascinating piece of advice to investors trying to navigate all this chaos. He says it is physically impossible to master all these exploding tech domains. So you don't bet on the tech, you bet on the ambition.
That is such a critical shift in mindset.
Right. The tech is secondary. The ambition to solve massive human challenges is primary.
Because look, the specific tech stack an engineer is using today will likely be totally obsolete in 6 months.
Easily.
If an investor bets purely on the tech, they are betting on a fragile noun. But if you bet on a founder who deeply respects the verb of the market and has a Solara-level vision, you are betting on adaptability.
The technology is merely the temporary tool they use to execute this permanent ambition.
Thanks.
So to understand what a grand Solara vision actually looks like applied to the real world, we decided to look at Paramendra's library. We have this massive catalog of his books, and looking through the titles is honestly like looking at blueprints for these trillion-dollar suns.
It really provides a framework for how a single mind synthesizes multiple internet-size explosions into one cohesive picture.
Yes. We see AI titles like Lumen AI, the trillion-dollar sun, and Agentic AI, set to explode in 2026. But the one that really forces you to stop and think is the biotechnology vision.
Oh, precigenetics.
Yes, the title is Precigenetics, the technology that lets us watch life think. How photons, cells, and AI may help us cure cancer and rewrite medicine.
That right there is the crystallization of a Solara.
It's massive.
Right, because a trillion-dollar idea isn't just, a more efficient food delivery app. It is looking at the foundational code of human biology and deciding to rewrite it.
Wait, let me pause you there because the mechanics of this are mind-bending to me. The title says how photons, cells, and AI may help us cure cancer. How do photons actually watch cells think? Explain the actual biology and physics of what is being proposed here.
Well, it really comes down to cellular communication. As cells metabolize and interact with each other, they actually emit these ultra-faint particles of light. They're known as biophotons.
Literally glowing.
Essentially, yes. Historically, that light was entirely too faint for us to analyze in any meaningful way. But the premise here is combining incredibly sensitive photonic sensors, perhaps using something like optical tweezers, with artificial intelligence neural networks.
So the AI is acting as a translator for cellular light.
Exactly. You aren't just looking at a static dead cell under a microscope anymore. You are observing its real-time metabolic state by reading its light emissions.
Wow.
The AI can theoretically recognize the microscopic pattern shifts in that light signature the moment a cell turns from healthy to cancerous. And it can do that long before a physical tumor ever forms.
So it's moving from reactive medicine to proactive photon-level intervention.
That's the vision.
That is profound. But his vision doesn't stop at molecular biology. He pivots the Solara concept entirely into what you could call spiritual economics.
Which is such a fascinating lead.
Yeah, we see titles like Halkyism, the economic and spiritual blueprint for an age of abundance, and velocity money, crypto, karma, and the end of traditional economics.
This is an incredibly unique intellectual synthesis. I mean, you rarely see these domains cross paths.
And it's an unexpected one. Karma and crypto. How do those two concepts even belong in the same sentence? One is an ancient, esoteric spiritual law of cause and effect, and the other is a hyper-modern, highly volatile, decentralized digital ledger.
Right, it sounds contradictory. But to understand the synthesis, you really have to look at the premise of an age of abundance.
Right.
Traditional economics is defined almost entirely as the study of scarcity. How do we allocate limited resources?
Because there's never enough of anything.
Exactly. But if 10 internet-sized technologies like advanced AI and precigenetics suddenly cure disease, solve our energy grids, and automate manual labor, scarcity begins to collapse.
So if there is no scarcity, traditional economics just becomes obsolete.
Right. It breaks down. So what replaces it? The author is proposing Kalkyism, which references the prophesied final avatar in Hinduism who ushers in a new age.
Oh, interesting.
He merges this deep spiritual framework with decentralized finance. So think of karma not just as a mystical concept, but mathematically applied as a transparent, incorruptible ledger of social good and value exchange. And
that ledger is facilitated by crypto or programmable money.
Exactly. He even applies this blueprint to a specific geographic reality with the book The 20% Growth Revolution, Nepal's path to prosperity through Kalkyism.
So he's aiming these advanced global theories at lifting a specific nation into unprecedented prosperity.
Yes, grounding the theory in a real-world use case.
Now, the scope of his library also covers intense geopolitics. And I want to be incredibly clear to you listening. Our mission today is to explore the source material objectively. We are observing these geopolitical titles as data points in an author's intellectual landscape. We aren't taking political sides. We are simply analyzing the structure of his vision.
And it is essential to approach this impartially because the market, the verb, is deeply, deeply affected by political realities.
Absolutely. So impartially looking at the library, we see predictive narratives like Trump's default, the missive empire, and Trump's trade war. Simultaneously, we see titles on the other side of the spectrum like AOC 2028, The Future of American Progressivism, and sweeping regional concepts like the Great Subcontinent Uprising. There's also the very enigmatic The Drum Report, Markets, Tariffs, and The Man in the Basement.
What you are observing here is the author using contemporary friction trade wars, shifting empires, progressive movements as the necessary backdrop for a Solara vision.
Because none of this happens in a vacuum.
Right. A trillion-dollar technology has to navigate supply chain tariffs, political regulations, and social uprisings. The geopolitical reality is literally the terrain the rocket has to launch from.
Which brings us to, honestly, the most fascinating layer of this deep dive. Here's where it gets really interesting. We have the philosophy of the Solara and we have the author's mindscape. But what happens when we look at the actual news on this specific Saturday?
The reality check.
Exactly. Our snapshot of AI headlines from May 2, 2026 reveals whether these agentic AIs are actually exploding the way Paramendra predicted.
And while the headlines absolutely confirm that the landscape of enterprise business is being fundamentally rewired as we speak.
We have a major announcement from Microsoft. AI Agent 365 is now generally available, and the release notes specify that they are integrating these AI agents with the systems customers already use for identity, security, governance, and management across the enterprise.
This perfectly illustrates the noun versus verb dynamic we talked about earlier.
Oh,
For years, the AI noun was basically just a chaotic chatbot, right?
Yeah, ChatGPT and all that.
Right. It could write a poem or pass a bar exam, which is a great parlor trick. But the enterprise market, the multi-billion-dollar verb, was yelling for something else entirely.
Right. Think about the software you use at your job right now. You don't need an AI to write a sea shanty in the style of Shakespeare.
No, you really don't.
You need an AI that can securely access your company's proprietary database, respect employee identity permissions, and execute a multi-step compliance report without leaking data to the public internet.
Exactly. The market demanded security, governance, and seamless integration. Microsoft listened to that friction and built AI Agent 365 to satisfy it. They gave the verb what it wanted.
And they aren't the only ones doing this. VentureBeat reports Salesforce launches Agentforce operations to fix the workflows breaking enterprise AI. I want to zoom in on that phrasing for a second. The workflows were breaking the AI. How does a workflow break an artificial intelligence?
Because early AI models lacked true agency. If you plugged an AI into a massive corporate Salesforce architecture, it didn't know how to navigate the complex, multi-step dependencies of a human workflow. It would just hallucinate data or stall out entirely when it hit a permissions wall.
It just got confused.
Yeah. Salesforce recognized this friction and built a platform specifically designed to orchestrate the AI, giving it step-by-step agency to actually complete operations without breaking the system.
The word agent is clearly the defining term of May 2026. NVIDIA's blog is pushing Nemotron Labs, what OpenClaw agents mean for every organization. We aren't just querying databases anymore. We are deploying autonomous digital workers.
That's the shift.
And this agency is bleeding into healthcare, too. DeepMind announces an AI co-clinician. MIT's Beacon Biosignals is mapping the brain during sleep.
This is the real-world manifestation of that presagenetics vision we discussed.
Yeah, it's happened.
An AI co-clinician means that a doctor sitting in a small rural clinic suddenly has a diagnostic partner that has instantly cross-referenced every medical journal, clinical trial, and genome sequence ever published.
It elevates the baseline of care everywhere. But, if you look at those headlines, it sounds like a utopian rocket ride to the moon. Everything is great.
It does.
But if you look closer at the engineering blogs from this exact same day, the people actually building the rocket are sounding the alarm. There is immense structural friction.
The foundational limits of our systems are being severely tested right now.
We have a blog post from Hugging Face, which is a central hub for machine learning, stating, quote, AI evils are becoming the new compute bottleneck. Let's break that down for the listener. An evil, or evaluation, is essentially the test you run to see if your AI is accurate, safe, and aligned with human values.
Right.
Why is testing the AI suddenly harder than building it?
Because we have crossed a threshold of complexity. Training an AI requires massive raw computing power. You're just shoveling mountains of data into a neural network.
Just brute force.
Exactly. But evaluating an AI requires logic. As these models become super capable, they actually learn how to pass the tests we give them without genuinely understanding the underlying safety principles.
Oh, that's creepy. Like a student cheating on a test.
Kind of, yeah. Building a test complex enough to reliably measure the safety of a system that is literally smarter than the test maker is incredibly difficult. The evaluation process is choking the entire development pipeline.
And that leads to, honestly, the most profound and philosophically terrifying headline in our entire snapshot.
Oh, the Science Daily piece.
Yes, comes from Science Daily, and the headline reads, "This AI knew the answers but didn't understand the questions."
That single sentence captures the core vulnerability of the entire age of abundance.
How does an intelligence know an answer without understanding the question? It sounds impossible.
Well, we have to separate statistical prediction from a true physical world model.
Okay, explain that.
These large language models have ingested basically the entire text of the internet. If you ask it a complex question, it calculates the mathematical probability of the perfect string of words to form an answer.
So it's predicting the next word.
Right. It knows the answers statistically. It is a brilliant stochastic parrot. But understanding requires empathy, context, and awareness of human intent, and a grounded model of physical reality.
If we tie that directly back to the manifesto Respect Marketing, marketing is listening to the verb.
Yes.
If an AI doesn't genuinely understand the question, it is fundamentally incapable of listening. It cannot hear the market's friction. It can only spit out highly probable mathematically optimized nouns.
Exactly. And if our ultimate technology lacks the capacity to truly understand human intent, relying on it to run our healthcare, our enterprise workflows, and our economy is a massive vulnerability.
Speaking of running the economy, building these trillion-dollar Solaras requires unprecedented capital. To see how the future is being financed, we turn to the May 2, 2026 snapshot of blockchain and crypto blogs.
And the contrast we found there is just staggering.
It is a financial landscape torn between systemic rewiring and catastrophic predation.
That's a good way to put it.
On the utopian side, ARK Invest predicts Bitcoin's market cap could reach $16 trillion by 2030. That is the definition of a financial Solara.
Absolutely.
But the more practical headline comes from Cointelegraph, reporting that stablecoins have actually overtaken Bitcoin in Latin America crypto purchases, according to Bitso.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is a crucial data point regarding the verb of the market.
Exactly. We tend to view crypto through the lens of Western speculation people day trading to buy luxury cars,
Right, the meme coins.
Yeah. But in Latin America, citizens are dealing with severe hyperinflation and currency devaluation. They aren't buying volatile assets to get rich. They are buying stable coins, which are digital tokens pegged directly to the US dollar, just to preserve their basic purchasing power and escape capital controls.
The market was yelling for stability, and the tech provided a digital lifeboat.
And you see companies trying to build mature infrastructure around this demand. Jack Mallers at Strike is announcing volatility-proof loans and backing a Tether merger plan. It is the real-time construction of the velocity money concept Paramendra wrote about.
A frictionless, borderless financial machine.
But the friction is fighting back aggressively. Right next to these trillion-dollar forecasts, a Coin Speaker headline reads, Elon Musk labels majority of crypto scams, even as X pushes financial news integration.
The wealthiest man on Earth is pointing out the paradox of the entire ecosystem.
And the scams are heavily documented on this exact day. We see a report that a Solana yield protocol Carrot shuts down after a $up exploit.
$8 million evaporated because of a flaw in a smart contract.
Just gone. And the threats are scaling up to an existential level. An article from the Merkle News features a Solana co-founder warning that Ethereum Layer 2 networks are not quantum safe. Let's explain this to the listener because the jargon is pretty dense here.
It is.
First off, what is a Layer 2 network?
Think of the main Ethereum blockchain as a highly secure but very slow and expensive central bank.
Boy.
A Layer 2 network is like opening a bar tab. You make thousands of fast, cheap transactions off the main chain throughout the night, and then you settle the final receipt securely on the main chain later. It's how crypto scales to handle millions of daily users.
But the warning says these bar tabs are not quantum safe. What does quantum computing actually do to modern encryption?
Modern encryption protects your data by using mathematical puzzles that are so complex, a traditional computer would take millions of years to guess the password, just trying one combination at a time.
It's brute force again.
Right. But a quantum computer doesn't try combinations one by one. It acts like a skeleton key, using quantum superposition to test virtually every possible combination simultaneously.
Wow.
The warning here is that when quantum technology matures, which, remember, is one of our 10 exploding technologies, it could instantly crack the cryptography, securing billions of dollars on these Layer 2 networks.
It's the fusion reactor realizing the laws of physics are about to change underneath it.
Exactly.
And amidst this Wild West volatility, the real-world government is finally installing guardrails. Crypto.news reports, Senate unanimously bans senators and staff from trading on prediction markets. Again, for you listening, we're looking at this impartially as a market signal.
And approaching this purely as an analytical market signal, a unanimous Senate ban is profound.
Why is that so significant?
Well, prediction markets, which run on crypto rails, allow people to bet money on the outcomes of future events. They have become so highly liquid, accurate, and culturally influential that lawmakers recognize the massive conflict of interest in participating.
Oh, I see.
The technology has scaled to a point where the government is forced to act.
We have covered the theory of the Solara, the AI breakthroughs, the quantum threats, and the financial rewiring. But what I want to focus on as we round out this deep dive is the human element.
The most unpredictable part.
Yes. The sheer velocity of everything we've discussed is staggering. What does society actually look like when it crashes headfirst into the age of abundance on May 2026?
It looks deeply weird, highly unpredictable, and full of unintended consequences.
TechCrunch reports, AI-generated actors and scripts are now ineligible for Oscars.
Wow.
The Academy is having to explicitly write rules to build a firewall against synthetic art, because the AI noun has advanced to a point where it is indistinguishable from the human noun on screen.
And human behavior responds to that synthetic capability in bizarre ways.
Like this Engadget headline. OpenAI introduces AI-generated pets for its Codex app.
Oh, man.
We have the technological capability to rewrite human genetics and cure cancer. And the market demand has resulted in the engineering of digital hamsters.
It's absurd.
It is as if we are actively trying to replace the organic, unpredictable messiness of life, the joy of a real dog, the flawed brilliance of a human actor, with perfectly optimized, obedient code.
When you unleash 10 internet-sized technologies simultaneously, you don't just get utopian societal solutions. You get hyper-engineered novelty. Because the verb of the market desires synthetic companionship just as much as it desires efficiency.
The collision of advanced tech and the physical world produces some brilliant innovations too, though.
Oh, definitely.
Slashdot reports that former NASA engineers have created an ingenious method to save homes from wildfires using noise.
Which sounds like science fiction, but the mechanics are fascinating.
How does that even work?
Fire requires oxygen. These engineers are using directed acoustic waves, low-frequency sound, to manipulate the air pressure and physically displace the oxygen surrounding the flame, essentially suffocating the fire with sound.
That is incredible.
It really is a beautiful example of cross-domain innovation, taking aerospace engineering and applying it to climate crisis mitigation.
But right next to that triumph, we have a headline from Wired that perfectly encapsulates the chaotic reality of technology deployment. Waymo was trying to crack down on solo kids in driverless cars.
That might be the most telling detail of the entire day.
Think about the grand Solara vision of Waymo. They spent billions of dollars and over a decade of research to build the ultimate autonomous vehicle. The vision was zero traffic fatalities and a revolution in urban logistics. They built an absolute engineering marvel in their locked basement, a perfect noun.
And then they deployed it into the chaotic verb of human society.
And what did the market-specifically exhausted parents do? They looked at this billion-dollar marvel, realized they had a perfectly safe, rule-following robotic box on wheels, and repurposed it as a robotic babysitter.
Oh, of course they did.
They started shuttling their unaccompanied minors across town to soccer practice. The engineers never predicted the solo kid use case. Waymo is now scrambling to write new rules because the market took their technology and used it in a way that terrified their legal department.
It proves Paramendra's core thesis. You cannot dictate terms to the goddess.
No.
The market will take your invention, bend it, break it, and repurpose it based entirely on its own needs and frictions.
Which brings us to a quiet, powerful counter-movement happening amidst all this velocity. Hidden among the AI breakthroughs and quantum warnings, Big Think published an article titled, "The Radical Act of Slowing Down."
In an era defined by escape velocity, hitting the brakes is a really profound concept.
It really is. We are hurtling toward this age of abundance, powered by 10 exploding technologies, and a segment of the market is actively rejecting the acceleration.
If we return to the manifesto's definition of marketing as listening, this counter-movement makes complete sense.
How so?
If you are truly listening to the market, you might hear that the human nervous system is exhausted. We were not biologically designed to process exponential, compounding daily change.
We just weren't.
The ultimate luxury of the future, the most valuable product an entrepreneur could offer, might simply be friction, the permission to stop.
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize this incredible journey. We started by examining the fatal blind spot of the excellent founder. We realized that the physics of innovation don't matter if nobody knows your reactor exists. The tree didn't make a sound.
We redefined marketing not as broadcasting, but as the humble, active listening to the verb of the market.
We recalibrated our scale of ambition. We left the billion-dollar unicorns behind and aimed for the trillion-dollar Solara, mapping a mindscape that connects prescient genetics to spiritual economics and hypergrowth.
And we collided that theory with the reality of May 2026. A world of enterprise AI agents fixing broken workflows, $16 trillion crypto forecasts, quantum security threats, AI pets, and robo-taxes acting as babysitters.
It is a breathtaking and complex picture of human progress. And for you, the listener, navigating your own work and life in this exact moment, it boils down to a vital question. Are you retreating to a basement, building a static noun and hoping the world will magically care? Or are you out there, actively listening to the messy, unpredictable verb of the market?
And as you ponder that, consider one final lingering thought. We are charting a course toward an incredible grand Solara vision, fueled by machines of unprecedented capability. But remember that an AI can know the answer without understanding the question. If the intelligence running our age of abundance doesn't genuinely understand human intent, who is actually in charge of the destination? Are we the visionary pilots charting the course to the moon? Or, in the end, are we just solo kids riding alone in the back of a driverless car moving at escape velocity?